Welcome to Open Source News. I am your brother and your host, BCP, with a late edition update. By the way, if you like these updates, please give this video a thumbs up. You might have to hit it a couple times to make it stick, but your persistence is much appreciated. And if you have something to say, please say it down below. We have a great Patriot community, a very respectful and nice community, I might add. The trolls generally get ignored or they get skewered and go away. But just want to say, just put your comment down below. It also helps us with the YouTube algorithm if you engage with our videos. Do not forget to also hit the subscribe button. All right, folks, let me give you an update on a few things. I've been saying for the last, I'd say a month or so, that they're pushing Nikki Haley as a candidate for the president in 2024. The powers that be, the establishment in the GOP, are really hoping that President Trump doesn't run in 2024 or that something else doesn't happen before then. You know what I'm talking about. That would make a 2024 campaign for President Trump essentially a re-election campaign, I guess I could say. And so we've been hearing Nikki Haley a lot. I told you this would be happening, but it looks like the days of her being propped up may be dissipating, I should say. Now, what the GOP wants to do is they want to play identity politics. This is not even, I'm not even going to address Nikki Haley, if she's good or she's bad, or if she's should be on this list. But this really is a push because it is suspected that in 2024, if things continue as they are now and certain things aren't addressed, that in fact, in 2024, it won't be Joey looking to campaign, but it'll be Harris, who isn't doing very well. And the GOP is thinking if we put a woman up there, then maybe, just maybe, we can be the ones to have the first female president. Well, in 2024, it seems most likely that we'll be seeing Trump again. But they did Centennial Institute did a poll of Western Conservative Summit in Denver. I don't know if you saw about that summit. And she came in dead last. But let me tell you who came in atop, and it should be no surprise. But there's a couple people on here that I haven't discussed. I think it'd be very interesting to just visit for a moment. So on the top of the list were President Trump and DeSantis with 74 and 71% respectively. Okay? Then you had Senator Ted Cruz. I wasn't a big fan of Ted Cruz in 2016. Definitely not next to President Trump. Once again, I said this before. I'll say it again. I prefer people with executive experience. So governors, for instance, or President Trump, who has private executive experience. Ted Cruz, I would support. I'm liking Ted Cruz a lot more for what he's done and what he said and what he stood for over the last 4 or 5 years than I did previously. Once again, not on the top of my list necessarily, but definitely I would support him if he were the nominee. Then we have Mike Pompeo, who I actually personally like more than Ted Cruz because of his international stance. Tough on China, tough on North Korea, worked very well internationally with the Make America Great Again and America First policies. I think he'd be great on the world stage, and I think he would instill a little bit more fear in our enemies perhaps than some of the other people on this list. Also, Senator Tim Scott. I like Tim Scott. He's not my guy for president. I don't see that leadership. I don't see that killer instinct that you just need to have a little bit of that fighter in you. And I see the more of that from Ted Cruz than I do from Tim Scott. Once again, I don't want to be in identity politics. Tim Scott is a great guy, but we don't want to, and that sounds funny as a black conservative patriot, prop up a guy just because of his color if he's not really ready for the job. And that's what I feel about Tim Scott. That's how I would feel if they put me up to be president of the United States. I think I have lots of talents. I don't think being president would be one of them. But if I were, I would be tough on China and the deep state for sure. And that's probably why I would have maybe 18 months as president before they probably would candidate me. Let's see. Kristi Noem, once again, the identity politics. I know there's a lot of fans of hers. Don't know too much about her. Senator Tom Cotton. I do like Tom Cotton. If we were to have a senator up there, I probably would prefer him over Tim Scott because he's been a fighter on lots of different issues and has been tough on China, and I think he has a good stance internationally. Senator Rand Paul, I absolutely love Senator Rand Paul. Don't know if he's got the little too. I agree with his policies a lot. I would say 85 to 90% of the time. I like that he's principled, but I don't. Once again, I don't think for president that he has that. He doesn't have that fighter in him. He does in some ways, but I just don't think he comes off as a very strong person. Donald Trump Jr. I'm not really for dynasties, and Don Jr. I like somewhat, but he's nowhere near my guy. Quite honestly, a plus would be if he did run. Obviously, he'd have his dad there as advisor, like in the Godfather movie. For those of you who've seen it, one of the great lines is when they've got to let Tom Higgins go. He lets Tom Higgins go, and he says, "You're a great consigliere, but who would be a better consigliere than my dad?" Right. So that's kind of how I kind of, that would be a bonus, or that would be something in favor of Don Jr. if he were to run and get it, that he would have his father there advising him. Former Vice President Mike Pence, goes without saying, he is totally washed up. They say he's got like 21% in this poll. This doesn't represent, I think, the average voter in the Republican Party. I don't think they're very happy with Mike Pence. President Trump is not happy with Mike Pence and has expressed so today on an interview with Real Voice of America, and I'll get to that in a second. Senator Josh Hawley, like him more than some of the other people on this list. Representative Dan Crenshaw, I really don't like congressmen or women for president. I prefer senators. That's just my opinion. And then also Representative Haley, or Ambassador Haley, that's at the bottom of the list. So in this Western Conservative Summit, nonpartisan approval voting poll results put DeSantis above Trump, and then Ted Cruz, and then Mike Pompeo, and then Tim Scott. Now, 30 candidates were polled, Democrats and Republicans in this poll. Now, I find it very interesting is, folks, we're going to have to answer this question perhaps at some point, maybe not, if we prefer DeSantis over Trump. Now, I prefer Trump over DeSantis, but there are great reasons why DeSantis would be better than Trump. Hear me out before some of you go, "Oh, that's blasphemy, you're a traitor, yada, yada, yada." Take your immaturity somewhere else. Let's talk like adults. Trump is super, super hated, and the TDS is so strong in the universe of American politics that DeSantis may be more effective. I imagine he would govern very similar to President Trump, but wouldn't have so much the automatic TDS animus. Maybe it would take a while before DDS, DeSantis derangement syndrome, came into play. So there are some advantages of a DeSantis over Trump. It's not blasphemy I'm talking about, folks, here. Some of you are just cult of personality. And look, once again, if you're new around here, I may have been a Trump fan before you because I actually volunteered for the campaign in 2016. So for those of you who may think I'm a Johnny-come-lately or whatever, I'm just giving you objective view here that there are some merits to a DeSantis over a Trump. But we don't have to worry about that because Mark Meadows says that DeSantis wouldn't challenge Trump in the 2024 primary. I wouldn't think he would. We're talking about DeSantis if Trump weren't to run. If Trump wins, he'll be at the top of the ticket. He will be the nominee in the primaries. If he gets contested like he did by a couple people throwing their name in the hats early on, they will be quickly swept off the field. Former Trump Chief of Staff Mark Meadows does not believe Florida Governor Ron DeSantis would challenge Donald Trump in the 2024 Republican primary, surmising the governor, quote, would be the first to say that if President Trump gets in, that he would win the nomination and would clear the field. So apparently Meadows and DeSantis have spent a lot of time in California, 3 days recently. That's what he told the Washington Examiner, by the way. This is coming from the Washington Examiner. Governor DeSantis has made it very, very clear that he is running for election as governor of Florida, but he doesn't shy away from being very bold in terms of the initiatives that he is putting forth. So, and that's why this exclusive Meadows says DeSantis won't run in 2024. also being reported by Yahoo News, for those of you who like to know the sources. His re-elect for governor is a platform to show that the policies and the boldness and, quite frankly, his courage. I think Ron DeSantis is identified across the country now for the courage that he shows for conservative solutions, and he'd be the first to say that if President Trump were to get in, he would win the nomination, he would clear the field, so I don't ever see it being a 2016 primary scenario, where, of course, you had 17 people going in there, and you had the former governor of Florida at that time, Jeb Bush. One of the greatest things that President Trump did early on was take Jeb Bush completely off the playing field. It was a beautiful thing to see. So let's talk about what President Trump has said here recently. President Trump is not happy, as you would guess, with two of his nominees. He says he's very disappointed with Kavanaugh and Amy Coney Barrett and their votes to uphold, as I have reported here, Obamacare. Trump said he is very disappointed in Justices Brett Kavanaugh and Amy Coney Barrett for voting to uphold Obamacare. Quote, "I fought very hard for them," Trump told Just the News in an exclusive interview today, Monday. The Supreme Court last Thursday upheld Obamacare on the latest GOP challenge, arguing a recent change to the individual mandate made it unconstitutional. The highest court in the land, if you'll remember, if you didn't catch my report, voted 7-2 against the GOP challengers, which were 18 states led by Texas, and they were told once again that they did not have standing. So two of those Trump appointees, once again, ACB and BK, Brett Kavanaugh started with the majority. Neil Gorsuch dissented with Alito, and they both said that it should have been declared unconstitutional. Interestingly enough, on principle, the great black conservative patriot Justice Thomas also agreed with them on principle, but sided with the majority, I guess, on technicalities about the ruling. I fought very hard for them, Trump told Just the News in an exclusive interview on Real America's Voice, but I was very disappointed with a number of their rulings. Second guessing does no good, Trump added, asserting that he's not indulging second thoughts about having nominated Kavanaugh and Coney Barrett, but I was disappointed with a number of rulings that they made. I'm not going to go into details, but President Trump also expressed that he likes Mike, and we're talking about Pence here, but was disappointed that he didn't punt it back to the states. And he says, had Mike taken appropriate action, we would have a different scenario in the White House right now. And that if what's going on in Arizona and other states coming up show that, in fact, the results aren't what we were told, that it would be up to the people and politicians to decide if he is to go back to his former job. I'll leave it at that, folks. I will be covering this more in depth on our next episode over at bcpextras.com. If you want to check out what I have to say over there, I can talk over there. And that is why that show is called BCP Unfiltered. I can give you that entire news story, how you want to receive it. But I think I've given you enough information for you to understand what President Trump told Just the News. So very, very disappointed in what they did. Now let's go back to DeSantis, and let's also talk about what Nebraska is doing, and that is supporting Texas at the border. So we got the state of Nebraska. They're the latest that will be sending about 25 state troopers down to the U.S.-Mexico border to aid Texas officials with the nation's ongoing crisis at the border. This is courtesy of Governor Pete Ricketts. Now, he announced that he will be sending later this month the Nebraska State Patrol troopers specifically to the Del Rio, Texas area to partner with the Texas Department of Public Safety, and that they will be there no longer than 16 days. Ron DeSantis also, if you recall, last week announced that he will be deploying law enforcement officers from 12 of the state's police agencies to the U.S.-Mexico border to assist Texas and Arizona. And this came about because Texas Governor Greg Abbott and Arizona Governor Doug Ducey asked states to help them with the wave of undocumented trespassers that are pouring into their states. And DeSantis made a point. He said, hey, this is affecting our state because our state before, for instance, had a drug problem, but those were drugs that were being manufactured like meth and what have you there locally. But now they have an influx of fentanyl and other drugs coming in from the border, and also migration issues coming in from the southern border over to Florida. So even though the federal government would make you think that immigration is not an issue, and it's only an issue that has to be dealt with New Mexico, California, and Arizona and Texas, that in fact, once they get through our porous border, they go throughout the nation, and you get to pay for it with your tax money, by the way. Now, what's really, really crazy here locally to me is this bit of news, and that is that the U.S. has extended their tourism ban at the Mexican and Canadian border ports. So what happens here, living in Southern California, having grown up in San Diego, and actually have a home in Baja California over by Rosarito Beach in Mexico, you have people that have visas or they have passports, and they come to San Diego. These are people with money in, working middle class and some wealthy people in Mexico that like to come to San Diego and spend their tourist dollars in San Diego, go to SeaWorld, catch a ball game, go to Comic-Con, shop in San Isidro or Calexico or Mexicali, and do whatever they want to do, stay for a day and go back home. Well, that is a big business for border businesses. Tourism dollars to the tune of millions of dollars. Well, the U.S. has extended the ban not just on our border with Mexico, but also with Canada. Canadians wanting to come in and spend money in Washington and other neighboring states, go home for the day, maybe stay for 24, 48 hours, a weekend, and then go back. Spend their Canadian dollars here, convert their Mexican pesos to dollars on the southern border. That's not allowed. It's been a whole year. It was supposed to expire today, the 21st. They extended another month. But of course, this doesn't make sense when you compare it to what else is going on at the border, and that is immigration of the undocumented coming in and with welcome arms and a red carpet. So people who are going to come in with a tourist visa or with non-emergency tourist visas or with a passport and get a temporary visa, they can't come and spend their dollars and go back home. But we can take in impoverished people from other countries that are going to be that are taxpayers. Folks, this is just fact. It's going to be taxpayers are going to have to pay to send them to places, to process them, to house them, to jail them, whatever the case may be. But we won't take in people that are proven that they have the vaccine, that they're going to spend money, and they're going to go back. Now, of course, some of them are going to stay. That is a part of our immigration issue. People come in legally and overstay that. But it's ridiculous to think that we're not letting Canadians and Mexicans come in and spend their money here and go back home, but we're open arms allowing people to come in who are not going to spend dollars, are going to be, because of their situation, a drain on our resources. But we don't want people coming in that are actually going to help our economy. It must be a regime that we're dealing with. And yes, it is. It's that of the former Vice President Joe Biden. And I want to end with this. 81 million vote-getting Joe is being shut out by his own people with the messaging of what's going on right now. Joe today, Monday, only had one thing on his calendar. It was a 1:45 meeting with financial regulators, which was closed to the press. Why is this important? Well, the White House blocked Joe Biden from speaking with reporters about his signature administration effort on entitlements. So what happened is they kicked off messaging today to promote the child tax credit, in which families will begin receiving monthly payments in their bank accounts of $250 or more per child beginning in July. This is a massive entitlement program that was part of that $1.9 trillion rescue plan that was pushed not in a bipartisan fashion. This is a huge win, you would think. You would think that they would want Joey out there touting this program, but instead they are muzzling him as calls continue to look into his cognitive abilities. But don't worry, folks. 81 million of us were so happy to cast that vote for him because he's our guy. But he's not our guy or the White House's guy to actually promote what would be a win for the progressive agenda. Makes you wonder what's really going on behind the scenes and who's really in charge. Thanks for being here. Hit that like button. Check out the BCP Report or other YouTube channel. You can go to the bcpreport.com. Also check out our new show at bcpextras.com. Until tomorrow, have a great one.